they are not doing anything, or at least being effective. And because we're not putting the pressure on the African Union, and we're not even, many of us are not even informed enough, you understand, and kind of educated enough about, we have to educate ourselves and get involved, but we need to get involved by getting the information and really finding out and doing our own research and not jumping to certain conclusions. Because Obama is not initiating this Africomm idea. This is the idea that's already a part of the Anglo so-called New World Order. This is a part of their agenda, and they are seeking to step up their involvement in Africa because over the last, you could say, 8 to 10 years, the Chinese have been heavily involved in Africa, have been making deals in Africa, have been also, you know, sharing certain technology and certain, you could say, you know, sharing some of their benefits, you know, different sort of benefits, you know, with different African nations in exchange for the raw resources. And I don't know if you're aware that the Chinese so-called Illuminati, or the Chinese secret societies, have threatened the Anglo-American New World Order and secret societies, Illuminati. And so there's a covert war that's also going on, and it's like Africa is the playing field. It's the scene, the location where a lot of this is going to play out. But for us to jump to the conclusion that because there's Africomm or African, that Obama as the present president now basically has to move this agenda forward. It's basically what he has inherited by becoming the president of the United States of America. Obama has inherited the Anglo-American New World Order agenda of putting military bases in every country in Africa. You understand? But Ethiopia has been heavily involved in this even during the time of His Imperial Majesty, as far as the sharing of military technology, so forth and so on, with Africa. So we have to not to jump to the conclusion that this is going to end any attempt of black people going back to Africa, because the majority of not the majority, but many of the soldiers in the army, you know, many of the soldiers in the army are black soldiers, and we can't even tell how many soldiers in the army, whether they're black or they're of other ethnicities, maybe, you know, Rastafari or Ethiopia or Ethiopian Hebrew inclined. You understand? So I don't see the connection between African being put in certain African countries and ending the attempt of black people going back to Africa, seeing that many of the people in the United States Army are black people. And from some of the black people I know who are in the Army, some of them are, you know, open to the truth about Ethiopia and Africa. You know, I mean, they look at Ethiopia in a little different way. Some of the black people, some of the black folk, of course, are, you know, are dead Negroes, of course, and on. But there's some who are Rastafari leaning, and we know this for sure in the Lineage Society because we've had to, you know, write to many Army chaplains on behalf of many Army officers and soldiers who are Rastafari inclined, and therefore were, you know, seeking certain information from a reliable Rastafari, you know, churchical authority, and they have contacted us at Line of Judah Society and have access to, you know, write on their behalf, almost similar to many of the prisoners as well. So I think it's a little bit premature. I think that's the idea that maybe they want to put out there. They want to put out this idea to discourage repatriation, discourage migration to Africa. But Africa is a big place. In fact, even the Horn of Africa, as has been mentioned in the most recent pirate situation, is a big place. You understand? You know, the Horn of Africa is a big place. You know, and even though the United States Army has all these ships and everything like that, you know, they've even admitted that it's kind of a big place to police. You understand? It's a big coastline. Just that coastline in the Horn of Africa and East Africa is a big place, much less the whole African continent. Like we said from the earlier part of this, a lot of it has to do with psychology. It has to do with how we view these situations, and too often we jump to certain unfounded conclusions, and the very conclusion that they want us to come to, and we become discouraged, and we discourage ourselves. You understand? So the Africomm is not Obama's plan, but is the plan that basically has already been drafted up for years. And we've seen some of the released United States military documents. Some of them are even available on the internet, where, you know, they've been talking about this at least, you know, for the last 10 or more years, especially more so now as others are investing in Africa. Others are looking for certain, you know, raw materials that they need, such as Iran and such as China and even Korea. Many of the African leaders have cut certain deals and, you know, exchange of technology, so forth and so on. And that has angered many of those in the EU, that has angered many of those in the Anglo-American New World Order conspiracy. And underlying that, the Chinese secret societies have, you know, threatened the Illuminati. You understand? Because they said, listen, you understand, this is supposed to be a fair game and everything like that. And, you know, don't try to, you know, use this whole political hype about Africa, so forth and so on, to kind of, you know, own Africa for yourself, when we need the very same resources like oil and so forth and so on, and diamonds and uranium and so forth and so on. So Africa is that carcass, in a sense, that all of the vultures, and when we look in Matthew chapter 24, it says that wherever the carcass is, like a dead body is, there the vultures would be gathered together. So these vultures are gathered around Africa right now because the African leadership, for the most part, like the African Union, is so dysfunctional and are so caught up by trivial issues and are unable to effectively respond to things such as the pirate situation. Why was that Somalian, you understand, taken out of the African Union jurisdiction and was not dealt with under the African Union jurisdiction? You understand? With, of course, America being able to represent her case, but this is all within the African Union jurisdiction. But since the African leadership have turned their backs on the teaching of His Imperial Majesty, they have become weak as well as dysfunctional about these issues. And this is where we in the diaspora come into effect, as we begin to become more informed, more involved, more aware. You understand? We can create the necessary pressure, or at least even the embarrassment, on many of these African states, African leaders, and even the African respective peoples in the different countries to get involved, especially during this time of the Obama presidency. So we shouldn't be just sitting down watching this as a spectator sport, but we should be getting involved in it. First of all, becoming aware of what's going on and consulting with one another. This is one of the reasons why we're going to initiate a series of different teleconferencing on and invite more ones such as yourself and others who sign up for it and subscribe for our teleconferencing, to discuss certain issues like this on a timely fashion, where we can go into a little bit more detail than we are aware, than we are aware of collectively, and then we are able to go into, say, in this medium, here on the YouTubes. So yes, it's true that America and the West, the Anglo-American conspiracy, the Anglo-American New World Order conspiracy, is seeking to put more military bases in every country in Africa. Yet it is also true that that is an idea that precedes Obama. And this is what I've said to other brothers in consultation as well, that instead of being spectators, we need to be getting involved and making our, making our opinions, our voices heard on these issues.